So we talked with Rui Major, who is a very dear person to me. He was my first mentor, and he taught me so much. And to this day, every time that I'm with him, I learn so much. Just not only as a professional, because he's a director, filmmaker, just like me, and also I learn as a human being. And I think he is definitely an inspiration. Always has been an inspiration, and we were very, very happy with our conversation with him. It was quite
Yeah,
quite an
it was
interesting
beautiful.
one.
Yeah, I think you'll really appreciate the way that he perceives the world and the way that he captures the world, and not just as a filmmaker and a photographer, but I think just generally as a creator and someone who wants to who wants to manifest or show or represent the things that he just finds magical in the world. So I think you'll really appreciate it, and I think it was one of my favorite talks. I really enjoyed it. Good. So we're here with artist and director Rui Major, and Rui is a good friend of Joao's, and which is one of the reasons why we're really excited for you to be here. And also, just the quality of work that you're doing. I had a chance to watch your videos recently. It's really beautiful work.
Thank
I'm
you.
really excited to explore that and some of the other stuff that you're working on at the moment, and also just like hear about you. So thanks for coming.
Yeah, I thank you. I'm glad to be here. That is really nice. Yeah.
And you're in London. Obviously, you and Joao are from Portugal, and you're here visiting your brother. Is that right?
Yeah. I came to London. It was like all of a sudden, like it was a decision I took in like less than a week, because my brother was coming to shoot a film, and he's an actor. Yeah.
Okay.
And so like it was never been. It's my first time in London actually. So it was this city that I always like. Everybody's talking about, like friends that come to visit. João was here. I knew João was here, but never came to visit him.
Yeah.
And so it was pretty much like, why not? No, why not going? My parents were asking me like, oh, why you don't take this opportunity and you go with your brother? And I was like, yeah, sure, let's go. Let's just do it. You know,
Yeah.
like I don't know why or how, but we go.
Yeah.
So it was good because I'm giving a hand on this film with my brother. I've worked with him a couple of times.
How do you guys work together?
Yeah. It's like
How is it? How do you guys get along?
It's good because we are pretty much like a bond. We have a good bond. Like so, we made some back in the day some video clips, some music videos, and some shortcuts, some experimental visuals. So. And at the same time, we are always like exchanging knowledge and like dig deep in some conversations about this film or this philosophy or whatever. So it's pretty easygoing, and it's nice to share with him this experience. But yeah, so I came with the mindset of let's just explore and see why is this everything about London. And it's been cool. It's been really nice. Like the skate scene, underground scene, the movie scene. Let's see how it goes.
When you come,
'cause you're a skater as well.
Yeah. I used to. Usually I say I used to skate.
But you were like semi-pro though, right?
Yeah, we can say so. I had sponsors back in the
Oh, did
days,
you?
and so yeah, and some competitions and.
so when you come to a place like London or a new city or something a place you're not familiar with, what point of view do you come from? Do you come from the tourist, the leisure tourist? Do you come from a filmmaker's perspective, or a photographer, or an old skater? Like how do you perceive the city?
Like London specifically is like I actually like in every city when I go, like I always empty my phone, and it happens quite often to end up like having footage, like just capturing around, and ended up having some experimental visuals or some music video. Like I've made one in a passing by Bangkok, travel. I went to Thailand to shoot a commercial, and then on the way back, I stopped in Bangkok for 2 or 3 days, and I was with equipment, so I ended up capturing like just taking some footage, just random, just by like compulsive sort of capturing, and with some situations that resonate somehow with me. And I ended up making a music video for a Portuguese artist. When I came back,
it's Sequin. We'll link it in the description as well.
Amazing.
Sequin,
So you had all this footage. You had this footage from Bangkok, and you thought, I'll just.
And somehow I just like in the middle of all that footage, I found like a consistency or some logic, and I just edited, and it was nice because I was shooting people from behind, like portraits from behind. Just like on the walks, on the sidewalk, crossing the road, just people sitting, just wandering, and I was sort of in a voyeurism mindset, not tourist, because I was pretty much focused on the way people were just standing in the street.
Yeah.
And
it was almost like ethnographic, like almost like research, like you're kind of
like
observing.
I was sort of like observing bits from like the inner side of those people just sitting there in the middle of a really big city, like chaotic, and they were just standing there, like sitting or standing, and I was capturing them from behind in the terms of safety, I believe, because I don't like that thing of just not knowing the people and just putting a camera in front of them.
Right.
So I was capturing from behind, and it's like portraits, and without being noticed. And in the end, the music, the name of the music, it's "Don't Look Back." So it made a lot of sense.
I gotta say though, actually, it's actually one of my favorites of yours. So.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I really like it also. There's a huge work there from the colorist I always work with. It's Nuno Garcia. It's a Portuguese colorist.
Yeah.
And
is that post-production stuff of like
just coloring
and grading?
Because I wasn't shooting with a not much nice camera, and so it was pretty flat. The footage was pretty flat. And
when you say flat, it's like people who have
with range of color, and even though it's like all the sides there is like full of neon and colors and everything.
Yeah.
I think I was not much into the profile setting and the picture style setting, so I brought the footage and it was not that much color there, and I was like, what the heck?
But that's nice though that you can go with a concept, or you can develop a concept. And it's not necessarily in that moment about the material that you're using or the quality of the equipment, but the concept itself was good enough that you could make it work.
Yeah, somehow it's like I believe was pretty much the mindset. I think I just understood a reason there, and once I was with the camera and carrying a lot of equipment, I was always carrying it like a huge bag and not leaving it in the hotel.
Not Bangkok, yeah.
Yeah, so not even in the hotel. It's this equipment will stay with me all the time, you know. So I was at least I'll have the camera.
I was living in Bangkok for 5 months, and I always remember having all my valuables on me all the time.
Like,
I wouldn't even leave it in my apartment.
Yeah. So like, and I was just like start capturing, and I think it was pretty much the mindset that took me there, like. Because I had also footage from different things, like those guys in the river and all these things, like more touristic point of view. But it was like those moments, I don't know, somehow they resonate more, like that situation, and ended up like having a rule of cinematography sort of that make the conduction and the line for it.
I'm curious, because if you're in a new place, and I'm at, in a place like Bangkok where it's like being in a jungle in the sense that the air is thick, it's hot, it's wet.
Yeah.
I grew up in California, so that's different. It's just a different feeling.
Yeah.
And then obviously it's like you're smoking 20 packs like 20 cigarettes a day because it's so congested, and it's just a different environment, right?
Yeah.
And you have to be in a different mindset. Also the food and the smell and the city, and so when you come to a place like London, what's that experience for you as a filmmaker in developing that concept? Like in that sense, it was, I've got this thing, I'm gonna go with it. How does that how does that develop for you?
Like today, it's like the 5th or 6th day I'm here, and actually I didn't brought any concept because it was all of a sudden like I'm going to London. I didn't thought much about anything, or actually I never think much on what I'm bringing back in terms of footage of filmmaking. Like from the touring, like as a tourist, in the end I'm a tourist.
Yeah.
But like London, what has been resonating is like, I don't know, I've been taking a lot of pictures of city landscape, like somehow like I had the feeling that the city is actually is bigger than I thought.
Like height or just
in all terms. Like I wasn't expecting to be this big. And like I had this feeling like of some areas like Liverpool Street, like Brick Lane, Oxford Street. Like I felt like the city pretty much like bending over me somehow, but in a way it's also it like obviously with the gardens it feels quite open. And it's easygoing. It's not a heavy environment. But what is resonating more, it's that feeling of being really small in a big city that I don't know, and maybe the underline. I feel sort of an underline of underground scene that you cannot actually reach. You know, like you see graffitis all the way. Like the brick layers are has this sketchy or this feeling of street scene. You know, and so I've been like still looking for. I have this feeling that there is an underground scene. There's a subculture. Pretty rich subculture.
You just can't grasp it.
Yeah,
you just
like,
can't access it.
So I'm figuring it. So that's why I believe I'm taking a lot of footage of like just going on the bus, coming here. I took like a long shot on the underground, and probably if I have a look on the phone, probably I'll find already a path or a language there, an aesthetic. I don't know, but that I'll see after.
Which is interesting because you've got to well obviously you've done that before, but you've got to have some faith in the fact that okay, I'm gonna develop something here. I'm capturing something. I don't know quite what it is yet.
Yeah.
But there's something here that I can sense, and I'll come back to it, and it will make sense.
Yeah.
This is actually quite interesting for me too, because I operate exactly in the same way as you do. And I always wanted to ask you this question, whether you do those things on purpose or not.
Yeah,
and,
it's like...
it's interesting to me to know that it's more like...
In terms of like capturing the theme and then pulling it all together.
I went to Bangkok after watching your video, and like I was like, oh wow, you know, like it'd be cool like to capture some footage like... and
you take it as a reference.
Yeah,
like you feel like I understand it.
But because like I saw it, and first of all, like it looked to me that it wasn't shot on purpose for the music video, although it was perfect for the music video because of the name of the song and everything. So I was like, how the hell did he manage to do this?
But the secret there is, or the reason why it's totally a serendipity, and I'm glad, like I don't know why. But it's not the first time. It wasn't the first time, and it will happen again, I'm sure. Either that music video and 2 or 3 more that will come up, like in the future. Some that are on edit, some that, and they were all like serendipities in a way that Anna, the sequin singer, came up to me, I would love to have this is that. And it was like, bling, I have an idea. I have this footage. I'll check. And then we will see. And it happened again with the other friends of mine, musicians and artists. And it's because I don't ask myself to, I just allow myself to capture something.
To get lost in it.
You know, just...
You don't need permission to just go with the...
I just get the mindset of, I'm going to capture. I'm going to just, what resonates, I'll capture. You know, like, I like this moment. I like this situations, like this specific detail.
Yeah.
And sometimes like in the bus, like I captured, like I start shooting, like it resonated, and I just, okay, I pick the phone, I start recording, and I said, I'll capture 1 minute of this.
Yeah.
And it just 1 minute, and I stopped, like in the subway and in the underground, like coming here, I started recording, and I was like, maybe 20 seconds, it's enough. And I took 20 seconds, and so it's not like...
Where does that come from, you think? Where does that...
I don't know. I would like to believe that it's intuitive, I think. It's something that it makes sense. Like, I don't know. It's because it's this thing of not having to nothing.
Yeah.
But at the same time, having a will of capturing that thing.
I suppose you've done that enough times as well, where you've got a feeling, hey, actually I just need like 20 seconds of this.
Yeah.
I've had a shot like that before.
Yeah, it's sort of a discipline, I think, because it's something you practice in a way that how many times, like everybody, I believe that everybody has this thing of like watching something and after wishing to have recorded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like, and
Absolutely.
what I think I've started to do is like when I have this glimpse of thinking, you know, like this synapse, I just instantly take it.
Just do it.
You know, like...
So you've learned to trust yourself, just to like,
Yeah, just
hey, that thing, I want
trust
it.
and allow. I think it's pretty much this, because like we are in the middle of the street and you have like all this toxic thing of everybody with the cell phones and everybody's like, but like I allowed myself, like, why not? Like I want to register this, like I want to
capture
have
that.
this, you know. So I take it.
And it doesn't
And
matter
then-
what kind of equipment you got, like, because that's one of the things that for me.
No, it's
like,
just my phone.
But you didn't shoot the second one with an iPhone. did
No,
you?
it was with a camera, but like it was the easiest setup to take out from the bag.
Right.
It was like
Yeah.
not. I didn't thought much about it,
Mm.
but it was a small camera, like so.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it wasn't the best at all.
Well, I guess also there is an emotional decision that you're making, right? I'm gonna capture this thing. I'm gonna go
Yeah.
for it. I'm gonna go for it because I trust it, because I've done it before and it's worked before. But you're not
Yeah.
necessarily processing that. And also I'm just gonna capture it for this amount of time because that feels right. And
Yeah,
I-
it's really intuitive in a way that like. But I believe it's even when I'm not traveling, like when it's not this thing of being out of context and out of the comfort zone. Like even in back in Lisbon where I'm living now, and with like even in some kind of project, some kind of works, like I instinctively like it makes sense, and
Yeah.
I capture it because like somehow I think even when I'm not filming or I'm without a phone or something, I feel like that maybe the biggest, I could say that I see a lot of movies and I read a lot and I see a lot of, I like art and all these things, but I believe like you can actually get inspired and get like drives on creative process that you can take those things from everything basically.
Yeah.
We were talking
You can
about
take
this actually.
you can take like from a book the same way from a film, like as like a scene from a film, or you can take from just the way a tree like wobbles, like, or like some story you hear on the streets,
Yeah.
a specific situation on a coffee shop, or just from people, the way like people are thinking, or
Yeah.
the way people are just walking, and that I believe that is enough. If it's something that echoes with you and resonates with your soul,
Yeah.
you can get inspired by that. So I feel that pretty much like lots of times I'm like trying almost to pick from the inner essence of the people, like bringing something out that resonates, like, or waiting to have it to have a feeling from it,
Yeah.
and then I get inspired from it or create something from that, or
Yeah.
just put it in.
Do you have an example of that? One of the last times you felt like that, where you've seen something quite subtle from someone, or you've read something, or you felt like you've been able to kind of
I
capture.
think like a constant situation. I believe I was with João and I took a shot of 45 seconds of a 3 trees. I'm spelling it right. 3 trees. And there was a plastic.
trees.
Yeah, and it was a plastic bag on the top of one, and it was just like, it was really windy, and I just took the phone and I shot like 45 seconds of it, and because it was like a moment that makes sense, but at the same time, like before coming here, I stopped on a coffee shop, and there was this guy sitting, having a burger. I've had a burger every day since I arrived.
In London.
Just a note. Yeah, in London. Every day I took at least one meal burger. Yeah. True.
There's more richness in the food in London.
Yeah,
than
I
you might
believe
imagine.
that, but it's just the daily basis is taking me that way, but it's all good. Usually I eat healthy, quite healthy, but it's all good.
Is this a vacation thing or is this a London thing?
Yeah, I just like, I'm not thinking much on what I'm having, so it's just, but it was nice because I ended up on this corner shop, and there was a guy sitting having a burger, and it was like, it was empty and all in glass, it was all windows, all the walls were windows.
Yeah.
And he was sitting, and there was huge space on his left with a big window, and there was this old man crossing the walk, and he was crossing with this thing, walking, and it was raining a
With the walker.
lot. Yeah, with the walker, yeah. So it was this, it just felt nice, that thing of the guy eating the burger, just sitting and getting warm there, and the old man like chilling in his own life, pretty easygoing. It was
But in the rain and cold.
in the rain, yeah, and he was just walking.
Yeah.
All good, everything, and it was a nice composition, so I just took a shot from there.
Is that
But yeah.
what is that for you about kind of emotionally what's going on with them, or physically what's going on with them, or is that like is there a feeling that you're trying to capture there,
Aesthetic?
that you can, or an aesthetic that you can take back and say, actually I can recreate that, or that was good enough as it is, or
Like from that, like it was a nice situation in a way that crossing those, like it was the click. Well, I feel that it was more the composition, the thing of having a huge window on the left and the guy sitting all in then the benches.
Right.
But then like it was the piece left was the old man coming, so that it feels the composition on the left, you know, like, and it
Right.
was, so I was sort of expecting somebody to come, and then the old man came, you know, like, and I said
it was like
cool.
perfect. Yeah.
So I was waiting for my burger, and I said, okay, this is time. And I took it.
Yeah, because film is quite layered like that, right? It's lighting, it's audio, it's composition of the shot, which is just a small part of it. But then there's movement, and then there's emotion, and there's like
and there
Color,
was amazing
Color.
because it was the guy, like those mindsets were like antagonists, you know, like, because the one more chill was the old man in the rain, and the guy more like I have to do something, was eating a burger, and he was young, and he was sitting inside, you know. So I don't know, it somehow it made sense.
Right.
I believe. I don't know. It's just that image can live apart from everything. It lives by its own. You know,
Sure.
like it's a moment. It's not that mindset of photography, like that specific situation, that specific moment, but it was a moment like in that has its own relation. You know, like in the city. I don't know. It's just. It doesn't need anything else to
Shows
have
lot
a
of
meaning.
context,
Yeah.
right?
yeah.
It doesn't need anything. It doesn't need to be on a montage, or it doesn't have to be on a film. It doesn't have to be anywhere. It just
It's perfect too, because I think obviously that transcends filmmaking. I mean, I was showing Joao. David Lee Roth was out doing an interview about writing lyrics, and he had this like really beautiful term, which was he called banking, which was like a term that they use in debate. And he was saying, you know, I just bank my lyrics. If I hear something, I hear a waitress say something in the road, and it just sounds like a lyric. It sounds like a song title, and I write it down, and maybe it comes up later, maybe it doesn't. But it's inherently part of the creative process of being really curious and really excited about the world, and the plastic bag hanging from the tree, or the man eating the hamburger and being really concerned about what he is or isn't accomplishing. And
the perfect nature of the composition of the man, the old man walking.
Yeah.
I guess when did you feel like, or when did that strike you as an artist or as a director that actually there's magic in the moment, and I'm only gonna be able to make good stuff? Or what was the realization about, I need to just really be aware of the moment, and that's kind of where the film is?
Yeah, it's like, I don't know, it's taking all these notes, like I created a discipline also of like writing post-its, like small ones, like you just somehow collect the same way, that mindset of that musician he was saying. You just collect all these pieces, and when you have to create, when you get into a process of creating, like you just somehow, you on the back of the mind, you start to bring all these pieces in, like in like with the way you want to go, or in what you are creating.
Yeah.
And when you start to build that up, it's when you like start to get the shape, and you say, I'm getting there, you know, like this is where because it's all these parts of you, like all these experiences, so somehow you are putting yourself there.
Yeah.
And it's where like you start to see that you are actually creating, and it's like it's this this relation of giving, but at the same time you are giving to something that is going to get back to you.
Yeah. Where does the faith? Where does the faith come for you? That, okay, I'm gonna give, I'm gonna observe, and then add to it, and then that's something else. I trust that something else is gonna show up, and eventually we're gonna have this thing. And it's, where does the faith? Where does the faith for you come from? That thing's gonna end up good. It's gonna end up something interesting that I want to watch, and you know.
Yeah, it's like I believe like
that's for me. That can be scary, you know.
Like in a specific moment, to capture a specific moment, or on creating something.
Well,
know?
I guess like for you might be creating a 4-minute music video. You might, and that someone might have paid you. Hey, look, Major, I need you to come through with this. Or you know, you obviously you're working on big Bollywood productions, and they need you to do a job, but maybe less so that, because that's you're less involved in the kind of
in the creative
creation.
Process. Yeah. Like they're like I believe like the background is life is highs and lows. My life is like with highs and lows as everybody, and there are stages of attempts. You know, there are lots of attempts, lots of tryings, and from those tryings, you just like it's a try, like trying to and fail, trying to do and fail after, and you just go on and you just learn how somehow you learn to believe and to keep on going and trying, and yeah, trying it's a key word for sure. Like experience, to experience stuff, to allow yourself to commit mistakes.
Yeah.
And that somehow creates a discipline where you start to believe in yourself, or you just don't push. You try, you experiment, and you have faith that it will happen, you know. But there's a lot of background with not mistakes, like things that don't work out,
right?
You know. So somehow you strengthen your willpower, and at the same time your faith and your belief that something can come up from there, you know. So you just, it's like almost compulsive, I believe. Like you just create processes and small things, like to feed the possibility, like attract the possibility or the reality that something can happen there, and something will come up, you know, like, and it will make sense or not, we will see.
Like, what is that? Because that almost feels like manifesting something, or like you as you said, you've got like you've got an intention or an energy or something that you're like, okay, it's gonna work out, or this is gonna be really good, or what? How do you have that conversation with yourself in the process of creating, where I know this thing's gonna be fucking great, or what? How does that work for you?
Like in creating something,
developing
like somebody asking to create that, to create something. I don't know. It's like it probably most of the times it comes from a brief somehow or a universe, right? Like a music video or a specific scene or a commercial, where you just somehow drink and observe the brief and try to understand or try to achieve a state where that makes sense for you, and then somehow you start to develop possibilities and ideas and outcomes from that, right? Like obviously you have to manage somehow the aesthetic or the approach that you are making for each situation depending on the brief. But yeah, in the end, you just it's situations and things that you relate to it with all this background, and you just start to build it up somehow, right? Like in the middle of the process, but depends pretty much on the brief if it resonates more or less with you, and if you have to research more or less to achieve a result that matches and that you feel like, okay, this is the way I want to go, because obviously there's things that you want to try, new approaches, new techniques that you want to develop, that you want to try or you have already tried and experiment, like just for doing, like in the compulsive side of the things, and then you just like, okay, I'm getting something side. There, yeah. you are okay there. I was something that can come out from there, and I just need this equipment or this kind of technique, and this project allows me to have these resources, and so maybe we just dig deep and we go that way, and probably we'll achieve something from there. And yeah, because then matching a good team for that, obviously, like picking the team when you start developing some process, like some works and some approaches, like instinctively you start to build up the team and the right people to do that, because like each one has like you need specific teams to different approaches, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty much that way, I think. Yeah.
I wanted to change gears a little bit.
Yeah.
I want to ask you something. What do you think is the difference as a creative person between filmmaking and the rest of arts? Like say some, like, I don't know, like writing or music creation or
even like or even like making a business or
yeah, and then we can go on to those like later, because I think it's an interesting relationship.
You mean like the difference?
Yeah, so what do you think is different, what do you think is the same, and like and then from there, how does that relate also to life and to other things that aren't considered like creative? Or
like filmmaking, I think is it's a process where I don't, it's a state of mind, I think, where I don't split it much from my life, you know, like I just it's something that I don't know if it's a will, if it's a need. I believe it's a need. I don't say that it's something that comes naturally. There's a part of it that does, but it's because there's a part where you have to work, like, and to force yourself to do it. You have to create methods to do it, and to make it happen on time and so. But I think actually it's filmmaking. It's ruling my life more than my life is ruling filmmaking. You know.
So you're kind of like embodying it almost, like
yes, because
or like you don't have a choice almost.
Yeah, like I don't. Just, I can't like I can't split it, you know, because if all of a sudden, not now I promise, all of a sudden I think on something and I just jump into it, and if it's 2:00 in the morning and I have a meeting at 9, I will not quit doing it because I have the meeting, because I'm having this. Okay, I'll write this, or I'm feeling this need. So it does pretty much interfere in my life, or rules it probably. And so, and that goes like the people you surround by, like the people that you talk with, probably you just feel the need of being people that understand somehow your mindset and your need, and you like naturally get closer to people that understand and
Yeah.
people that don't, right? Like but I believe like filmmaking is it's a discipline where you can cross it with different business and different approaches to life, in a way that it's part of your growth, in a way that you develop your processes and your stages in life are also the way you do your filmmaking.
You evolve in your craft.
Yeah,
sort of
yeah.
thing. Okay.
So you end up having growing on filmmaking depends on your growing in your life, and your mindset in your life, and how mature you are and how you relate with people will end up reflecting on the filmmaking the same way. I don't know, in other business and other way of being in life, like in a work life, if they have this relation of going and coming, because in the end I'm like, it's something that depends on me, and if I don't do it, it doesn't exist, you know. Like in the end, filmmaking, it's also a vision, like it's your vision about something, right? Or it's your approach about something. And I believe that there are other disciplines, other markets, other works that don't require that from you. Only probably the discipline of more related with formulas, with work, with technical work, that don't require that mindset and that balance between growing in your self-development.
You mean like you feel like there's a large, well, some people are doing work that is independent of their own personal development.
Yeah, like can be somehow independent, because there are more technical or practical ways to do it, I believe.
Like, is that about? Do you feel like that's about the process by which film or maybe photography or whatever gets created? That is something that's not there that then becomes that is there at some point, or what's the distinction between that and someone who's doing like accounting or?
Yeah, it's like I don't know. It's the commitment that you have to put in something that you are creating. I believe that somehow it's related with your inner self, like in your mood, your stage, your mindset. If you are, either you want or not, I believe that if you're not feeling good, if you are feeling lost, if you are hungry, it will come up in something that you are developing.
Sure.
But in the end, you can be more or less transparent, obviously.
Yeah.
Right. You can develop it a bit more like on a sideways, like creating like an artistic, like an art character, as an artist, and split it from yourself.
Yeah, I almost think that it's much more visual. Obviously, it's a visual medium, but film or photography, you get a physical manifestation of whatever these things that are coming up for you as a director. I suppose like what I work with teams ranging from local governments to charities to people doing international development and craft, but all those things that they're making as teams, they're manifestations of them as individuals and of collective teams.
Yeah.
Maybe like if you deliver a service to a collection of a particular population in your constituency, it's less obvious visually what that manifestation is, because it's not like a movie or a...
Yeah, it's like when you have to find a solution for something, right? Something, a creative solution, it will come from the top of the mind, right?
Yeah, well, I guess...
Top of the mind, and in the end, if there are two ways of solving it, if you are feeling good, you go in a peaceful way. If you're not feeling that good,
Well, yeah.
you will be in a different approach.
Yeah,
right?
and I guess you know on a kind of like on the ground level that manifests itself in conversations, right? Like if you're not feeling great that day, you're gonna manifest a shitty attitude and energy.
Yeah.
But I like that though about the way you described film earlier, because it sounded like a lot of problem solving. It sounded like we've got a collection of teams, one responsible for lighting, one's responsible for electricity. We're going to be outside, it might rain. We got another team who's responsible for who's going to track who's going to track the focus. It's quite and there's incredible layers of complexity. I mean, you were talking about working on a 200 plus team project in the middle of Lisbon, shut down the street on a Saturday. With stunts and you know, destruction and guy jumping off the bridge, and we've got 2 hours to do it or whatever, and it's costing us $2 million to shoot, and it's only going to be an 8-minute clip of, you know, like incredible problem solving and kind of complexity and
I think sorry I think that directing specifically, it's pretty much managing people. Making the best of people, so that like pulling out the best of the inner self of that person, so that you can have the best of that person as a part of the team. And directing either 10 people team or 200 or 300, I think it's pretty much about communication. And being like the way you treat or you talk with somebody, with the director, art director or photography director, it has to be different from from person to person.
Right.
Because in the end, that's why if you are managing, if you are directing, you have to rule these heads of departments and communicate to them the best way you can, to make clear in that language. If it's the photographer, the DOP, you have to make clear that you communicate the same language as him, so that he totally understands in terms of photography what you are saying.
Right.
And the same way for art, for makeup, for wardrobe, whatever. So it's pretty much, I believe, communicating and mainly taking the best out of people. And the days are always hard, like the shootings are always hard, long hours working, and everybody gets tired and at a certain point. And if you are directing, you cannot get tired, right? And at least I believe that we should be the leaders, not the boss, you know.
Sure.
And
what does that look like for you, anyways? The difference between that.
Like a leader is somebody that show like the way of being, the mindset that would be good to have at that time, that leads the way, right? A boss just asks for it and doesn't give the example, right? So, and I believe that a director should be a leader in a way that he's managing and things are being done as the director vision is, so like everybody's following that vision or working to that vision to get that result. But there are other different ways of working. Of course, I've been like since before I could say I was filmmaking or directing. I've been an extra. I've been a production assistant. I've been a focus puller. I've been a driver. I've been editor. I believe I've passed through almost all departments of a filmmaking, of a production, and I believe that a lot of people should do that. I believe that that should happen more often, in a way that I can say that I understand, like all the needs and all the struggles in each department of a production team, and that turns out when you are on set, you were talking about Bollywood production. I was first assistant director. Like I don't. It's two different. So there are two different positions: being a director or being an assistant director, because the director has to have a vision. Otherwise, you cannot be a director, right? You have to have a vision.
Yeah.
Because
You're like the
the
CEO.
author of that
Yeah.
film, right?
Yeah.
Whatever it is, an advertisement film, commercial, or a music video, or whatever. But if you are the director, you are signing it.
Yeah.
You know, like so.
You're
You
responsible
have to have a vision.
ultimately for.
But at the same time, being a first assistant director, you have to know how to rule a set in the production side of it.
Mm.
So if you end up being the first assistant director of a director that just sits and approves shots, you have to do everything. You have to make the bridge between the director and all the sets,
Sure.
all the directors from each department. So, like being a first AD, it's completely different in a way that a first AD doesn't have to build a career to be a director, because it's a different department, I believe. It's not a creative department, but it gives you a lot of experience, because there you understand like the impossible requirements from a director, and you have to cross it with the struggles from the director of photography, the art director, and so. And being in the end of that chain, like as a driver, where you are standing or waiting in the car for 6 hours and you slept like 1 or 2 hours from the day before, and you are there dying, and you have to just suddenly drive hundreds of kilometers to take the team to somewhere. If you have that knowledge and that experience, I believe that you can rule a set in a peaceful way, in a healthier way, where everybody can like be doing what they have to do, doing the best they can do, and not like being in pain despite being shooting 12 or 14 or 15 hours, you know.
I think I just want to like add that that's really interesting for me hearing you say that, because I've always had that intuition, and that's why I've wanted to like do everything. I've wanted to like do sound, do editing, do grading, do directing, do all these things, because for me, like in my mind, like it's exactly what I feel exactly the same. It's like if I want to be directing in the future, like I will be able to create much better things, or at least like operate in a much peaceful way, like you just said.
I think it's not. It doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
The same way that lots of people that are directing and filmmaking don't have that experience. You know, I've seen directors asking for something, not knowing lens.
Yeah.
You know, and it's okay. I don't judge. You know, like they have this vision. They don't know if it's a 50 millimeters or 35 or 85. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. It's not their job either.
Yeah, there's the DOP to deal with that. But I rather have a shortened communication with the DOP, and I say, let's try this or that because we want this or that.
Plus, the other thing is, because you will immediately like bridge a connection that you wouldn't have with a DP if you know their lingo, right? If you know how they talk, if you understand, like if you talk to an editor and you know the difference between, just the terms that just the technical terms, it's just much easier to communicate.
As I said, like it's communication. Because in the end, the team that is on the production team, like the whole team, is there working for you to achieve your vision.
The vision, yeah. But this is I think answers your question earlier, Joao, which is about there's a really clear, and the vision is perfect because the vision ends up being a film, and you can actually see it's visual. But this is exactly what you would ask any team to do, actually, regardless of if it's a creative endeavor or not. Is the leader has a vision, or the CEO, the director has a vision. The lever below it is trying to mediate between the vision and where we're headed as an organization and the values, and also kind of what's happening on the ground.
Yeah.
And what happens also, same thing what you're describing, is what happens is as you work down the hierarchy to people who are on the ground and delivering and shooting and tracking and driving, and they need more and more clarity,
Yeah.
right? They need more and more direction, which is, hey, you're gonna track this from that distance to this distance, and I don't need to tell you that, you already know that, but that's kind of.
Yeah.
But the CEO is not, or the director is not necessarily worried about that.
Yeah.
But how does that flow of communication happen? And actually, like, when I work with teams, there's always going to be a hierarchy. There's a director for a reason, and they hold the vision, and he's been there longer or she's been there longer, and that creates a hierarchy. But there really can't be a hierarchy of communication, right? Like, if the driver has some feedback and needs to challenge the assistant director because there's a disconnect there, then that conversation has to be able to happen.
Yeah.
Or with the director, hey, you don't understand what I'm dealing with down here.
Yeah.
And I need to be able to have that.
I think it depends pretty much on the size of the teams and the size of the productions. If it's a 10 to 15 team, like I would say a small, medium team, you can easily, the communication can happen, like despite egos or despite mindsets, it can happen straight.
Yeah.
But when the team gets bigger, you start to have that hierarchy pretty stiff, right? And it's pretty like you just don't have a way to turn around and to go around on it, because like if it's a driver or if it's a production assistant, like it will report to the director of that department,
right?
Because in the end, imagine like that Bollywood shooting we were talking, it's like a 300 crew. You cannot talk with everybody. It's impossible. It's impossible because it's so many people. It's like 6-7 guys around the camera. There are 4 to 6 cameras. You have like art department is like lots of people with props, with set dressing, everything.
Yeah.
So basically, and also like you have, once it was like a service production. So the Indian team was coming to Portugal for the shoot. We had a local team producing everything. So like a art department, like not the art direction, but in the end it was, because he was prepping everything by the guidelines of the Indian art direction.
Okay.
But it was a art director here, like casting director, directing here, stunt coordinator, action director, like. So basically you have two different teams, like the Indian team and the local team that it's prepping, and then when the Indian team comes, the needs, the requirements and the checkpoints are crossed, and everybody works together. But this is like heads of department. So in this big structure you have not one department director, but maybe 2 or 3.
Right.
You know, like first ADs, we were like 5 first ADs, you know, like, and in between the director and the first ADs, there's an associate director. So it's this director in the middle, you know, and it's like the creative process. It's from the director and the producer probably, but then there's this huge team that starts to spread from department to department, and in the end, it's 300 people working.
What do you notice? What's like the most obvious thing that you notice about working in that context versus working in a team of like 4 or 5 shooting a music video? What's the first thing where you're like, oh shit, like it's different?
Like
Communication, no?
I believe that the first thing is margin of error.
What do you mean? Tell us about that.
It's like if you are shooting something with 300 people, like you have to prepare everything on detail, like for months before. It's like in this case, this specific case, we were shooting a chase, an ambush, actually an ambush, and after a chase, that it's a complete scene of 8 minutes. It was 15 days shooting and 300 people, and we were prepping for, I believe, 4 months.
For an 8-minute shot?
For 8-minute shot, because it was stunt driving, cars exploding, guys jumping off a bridge, closing downtown Lisbon, like on weekend
Yeah.
and during the day also. Like so prep there, it's incredibly like it's
Detailed.
the thing because there are so many requirements for each department that you have to account everything, you have to double check everything, you have to break down every single day every single department, and you have to guarantee all the sources, all the resources, all the suppliers
Yeah.
to have that thing on that day and that place, you know.
Right.
And it's a lot of everything, you know. Like then on pre-production in terms of location, in terms of production, catering, it's 300 people eating every day, right? It's like that's
Yeah,
simple.
three times a day. Yeah.
How many guys are like serving food? How you manage the food that day? Like you need space for everything, for trucks, for
Toilets.
toilets. Like you are shooting in the middle of the city. It's 300 people. Where are they going to toilets? It's not a music festival, you know, with toys. Like those bathrooms, like they have to go. You have to have bathroom for that. So
What's-
it just gets like a dimension of pre-production that it's huge and it's really detailed.
Right. It's interesting because I think we talked a little bit about this earlier, but the complexity involved and the scale involved, and as you said, the margin of error, which is almost zero because you're spending $2
It's
million.
none.
Yeah, you're spending.
It doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist. Yeah,
It doesn't
because you're
exist.
spending $2 million or whatever
Per
a day.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's fascinating because just think about like city planning, or think about any kind of like design process that has a lot of inherently complexity. Like if you're planning a city, like there's something in these like big Hollywood Bollywood productions which like local authorities, like government, should be like learning from. Like how do we put together a really complex thing and not fuck up at all? Like
Yeah.
like you know,
Yeah, like-
let's just imagine we're building we've got 8 minutes to make this thing, or we're making this 8-minute thing and we've got $2 million.
Yeah, like all the schedule, everything. Yeah, like
how do you mitigate against, like, in that process, in that setting, how do you mitigate against error? Like what did you see, or what do you see in that setting where we're gonna do this thing to make sure we don't fuck up?
Yeah, like how my question, like top of the mind, my question is how what's the mistake there, right? Like what
could
can
go
we
wrong?
call like a mistake or something that went wrong there, like what, like that compromised the shooting? Basically we are always running against time, right? Like all the single minute that passes, it's money going, right? Because you rent all this equipment, you get all this stuff,
All these people
and you pay it per day.
The space, people.
Yeah, 11 hours plus 1, or 10 hours plus 1, and each hour that goes on, you have to pay extra. So
Right.
this is about money and time. To guarantee all the specific details, you just have to really sync all the time every head of department. Like everybody has to be really synchronized. Everybody has to know exactly what is going to happen, and then each of head of department has to spread the word properly without underlines or side talks. You know, like it has to be really strict and really sharp. The communication.
Clear, yeah.
Like you have to do this, you have to do that, and that's it. Then the action itself, it's like you have action director and stunt coordinator that manages it in a way that this is going to happen like this. These are the rules and the procedures.
Yeah.
And then everything starts to fit around, right? Now, like in terms of workflow, like I don't know, institutional people, I think it's commitment. No?
Because I was going to ask you, what's the culture that allows for that? You know, like what's the culture that says, no bullshit side talk. We got to get this right. You've got to nail it in this time frame. You've got that time frame. You've got that time frame, and we've got 1 day to do it. We've got 12 hours.
And
Yeah,
everybody
'cause-
delivers.
And everyone
Yeah.
delivers for the most
Yeah.
part, right? Like how many days are there where you don't actually do what you need to do? And
I think you
Yeah,
also
like-
there's another side to it that you think about all the possibilities, everything that could go wrong. That also needs to be in writing.
Yeah.
That also that
Yeah.
all the team, every department of the teams, they need to know that this is like it's likely that this might happen.
Yeah.
So what can
you,
we
you
do to avoid it?
make sort of a prediction of like the margin of error, like in a way that
So there's a lot of risk
If
assessment
this-
going on about what could potentially go wrong and how do we mitigate against that.
yeah, like yeah, exactly. Like in terms of safety, in this case, it was pretty much about safety. That's why I was saying procedures, because like cars going down the stairs, cars exploding.
Let's go
Yeah,
downstairs.
totally. Like literally, like motorbikes jumping and everything. So like, there are things that can go wrong, but like it's performing, it's stunt performing, right? So that has a margin that it's not controllable. Like that there's a risk.
Yeah.
Like in every other sports or action sports, and everybody you just have to guarantee and assess that these things that can go wrong, like having less food that is supposed to something, you account one person less or
Yeah.
something, then it begins to be like filmmaking, troubleshooting all the time, like and production. It's pretty much that, just solving problems.
Yeah.
You have like 4 months to prepare, but then on set, something is missing or something is needed. You have to adjust something on the set, on the props, on
Yeah.
the set dressing, and it's another, but the same way, creative process.
Yeah.
I think
Where you-
that's sorry, like just it's interesting because it's like you have to be ultra structured, but at the same time have the openness to go completely off and like go completely off
Just
of the plan if it
solve
needs.
it.
Just get the
yeah.
shit done.
solve it.
Just figure it out.
Yeah.
Everybody knows pretty well what they have to do,
Yeah.
and where's the hierarchy and the mindset, because it's everyone has a specific position with a specific goal, with a specific mission, and everybody knows exactly what to do. And I think that organization and that procedure sort of helps in a way that you achieve the whole, because everybody is like they're like hands somehow, like everybody together doing
Yeah.
exactly what they have to do. Like in a sum, you have
What happens in those big shoots? Because I imagine you got in that instance you've got the Portuguese team and they bring you on to do some direction or some support on direction. I imagine they're bringing someone on to do this. Not everyone is necessarily work together, and not everyone is necessarily a kind of cohesive team. Not of 300 people, and not like
Yeah.
that abruptly. In that setting, from your experience, how do you align 300 people that quickly around this task to make and it works well apparently.
Yeah, it worked well. Everything went good. We made what we had to do.
Yeah.
So it's
Good.
we achieved.
So what does that alignment process look like in such a short period of time so you get everyone on the same page?
From what I can say, like from this experience, it began 4 months before with me, like with the line producers, like the line producer from the service production company hired me and my colleague Andrea, which is from production. I'm more like in the direction, even though like on prep and first AD, I'm on the production mindset. But and then together, me and Andrea and obviously the line producers start to build up the team as the needs will and the requirements will come up. Like in the end of maybe 2 months after, we had all the head of apartments, we had production secretary, that was like everybody, these 10 or 14 people were contacted by me, Andrea, or another people that came in.
Is that just
but
about
it's-
getting
it's
people
just-
that you trust?
Yeah,
that
yeah,
you-
pretty much that. Yeah, it's like somebody that you can rely on, or the best that that is on doing something, and then you start like hiring and build it up in progressively, like in terms of trust, in terms of recommendation, if it's something that you don't know or you don't have,
Sure.
so you look for a recommendation of somebody that
Sure.
have done it already, and it starts to grow, because when you, as a director, it happens like in smaller teams. It's the same. It's just like spreading and growing as the time goes on and the requirements come up,
Right.
and the shooting starts to be and gets closer. But like directing is the same. If I'm going to get a DOP for a specific film, somebody that I want to work with for this.
Which is a director of photography for
DOP.
those who don't
Yeah,
know.
sorry.
Sorry.
So
I was gonna take a guess.
director of
The
photography.
actor of photography is the guy behind the camera, basically. Yeah. Sometimes.
Yeah.
Is
Mostly,
that would that be similar to like a cinematographer?
Yeah, it's the same.
Yeah,
it's the
yeah,
same
yeah.
job. Yeah,
So
sorry.
usually, director of photography would get the first camera assistant, which is the focus puller who make the focus.
Yeah. So as shots are moving,
and the first,
capturing the
yeah,
focus.
exactly. It can operate, or the DOP can operate. It depends on the job and the skills, but usually the DOP has a first AC that he rather works with, and the first AC usually brings his team of second and third. But can be also a requirement from the director or the DOP that no, I want this, and that, and this. The same way as the styling or the makeup, the art direction, usually should be the director to pick these heads of department, and then those heads of the department, depending on the requirements and on the film and on the project budget and on and on, will build like their own teams. And
I guess in film there's kind of an inherent understanding that when we start shooting, that's all we got, and like we just got to capture it, I suppose. And I guess as the productions get bigger, you I guess you're somewhat aware of the stakes.
Yeah. Like there are a lot of things you can, like, you know how to do and you know how to adjust. But yeah, like when it's there now, it's digital, it's less complicated, because when it was on film, there's no playback. Right. So
you just
you
have to
rehearse. Something they're missing. You have to adjust this. You have to adjust that. And on digital, it's just like everything is there, and you just shoot. You play back. There's something that's like, and then you go. You do it again. Right. So it's way
Plus,
easier.
Back in the day, everything was on film, which is basically like pure silver. So every time that you're shooting, you're just literally burning silver.
Yeah, that's actually like an habit that people, like some productions and some films or some workflows are not using, which is rehearsing.
Right.
You know, like just record the rehearse. Why? Because it's digital, and then the editor sees the shots, or you know, like just rehearse, like, so that everybody knows how to do and what to do. And you double check if everything is on the right place. Actors know what to do. You just correct things.
Yeah.
You, like, rehearse.
Does that mean you see a change in the way film is made? And
Absolutely.
what's the implication of that from your perspective in terms of the art and what people are making, if anything?
Yeah, it's like, I think it changes a bit. Because nowadays the fact is everybody can have a digital camera, basically. So I also believe that everybody can be a director. It just needs to have the vision, basically, and then sets up a team to make it happen.
Sure.
But thing is, like, nowadays, once everybody can have a camera, can make whatever kind of video and whatever, can make a movie, a film. You don't need anything else to make a film. You can make a film just a guy with a camera, and it can be a cinema film.
Yeah.
Right, a long feature. You just capture whatever, or just do a documentary.
Yeah.
So it's possible, and that eases somehow the mindset of some workflows and some requirements in terms of the way you approach the film, what you expect from the film, you know, like what the intention that you apply on the filmmaking, because there's a lot of methods and procedures and techniques that you don't need to know, because it's digital, so it's easy. You just go, you shoot. It's not good, yeah, you do it again. You know, so it gets more easygoing, basically, more accessible.
Yeah. Can you tell me about
So-
what did you mean by the intention, and can you expand on that a bit?
Yeah, it's that goes on there's a lot of we see a lot of images today, right? Everybody produces content.
Yeah.
Everybody can make beautiful images, right? It's digital. You can go on post. You can have
Yeah.
amazing cameras, and you can do like I will not discuss what is art or what is a film. You know, like in terms of concept.
You're not gonna get into that.
Yeah, it's like, but
Maybe best.
basically you can do like whatever you want, and you produce images, nice content, and in the end, I just sometimes I think you can do like people are doing things because it's cool, and they say I'm a filmmaker. It's like somebody just writes a poem and says like I'm a writer, you know, because I produce content
Writing.
and I write, you
Yeah.
know, but that doesn't mean necessarily that you know how to write, right?
Right.
And it doesn't mean that those filmmakers know how to make films. But actually they produce visual stuff, nice images, but then what I miss sometimes is I think that we lose in the way because of that lack of needs of commitment that back in the days
To
when
the
you had
craft, yeah.
procedures and
Right.
craft. You had to have something.
Right. The fact that it's so easy to create beautiful content now means that you need less rigor and less grit and less
And you don't need commitment.
commitment
You just do,
to
you know.
create something that
So
looks
that-
beautiful.
Yeah,
Anyways.
like, but for me it makes sense if you do something that
yeah.
you really want to do.
Which is kind of
Which is-
happening generally, like across all practices. Like you could start a business tomorrow. You can get a website up. You can have a name. You can get a domain name.
Yeah.
You could literally start a business tomorrow.
Yeah.
You can you can go on YouTube and be a filmmaker tomorrow.
Sure.
Essentially.
You too. Yeah, exactly.
But it's kind of like the computer, right? The computer was promised, I think, at some point by some people that the computer would make life easier because we would have to work less.
Yeah.
But actually, it just made life. You just made things more efficient, and so now
Yeah,
we're
easier.
producing more, but
time
we
to
work
make things.
we
Yeah.
work just as long,
Yeah,
or if not longer.
You can have a lone wolves all the way. I consider myself a bit lone wolf, but not in a way of being able of producing everything by myself. But the thing is, I like in filmmaking specifically, it's like that lack of intention. You know, that lack of things that actually you look and they are good, like advertisement. It doesn't have to be film advertisement, film commercials. It can be like a huge wallpaper, can be you know, like because it's everybody can, like anybody can produce the same. So
yeah.
I just feel the lack of tap on it.
When
you know,
There's a deeper level almost that you're talking about, right? So that there is like the possibility of creation, and then there's like an underlying level of like what is this actually saying, and like is this poignant, like is this is this worth my attention in the time of Instagram that you see thousands upon thousands of pictures every day.
Where do you think you got that where did you have that realization that I need to be a bit more intentional about, I guess, like Joao was saying, about the why. Why am I creating this? What's the reason behind doing this thing that looks cool, but what is it emotionally trying to communicate? Or
but for me, or from
from your perspective, where did that realization come from, or where did you learn that from, or how did you come about that?
I don't know. I feel like that it's your purpose. You know, like I've washed dishes already. You know, and washing dishes is amazing because if you don't wash them, they don't complain. You know, so you just do it, and that's it. So if I'm doing this, it's because I want to do. I want to express something. I need to express something. So at the same time, I'm the once it's a need. If when the outcome is there, when I have something produced, at least for myself, like I have this fulfillment because I made it happen. You know, like as washing the dishes. You know, you made it happen, and it's done.
Yeah.
And it fulfills you because it's a step that it's a step up, and so the outcome it comes pretty much from there, like from achieving a next step, like on the path that you want to take. So. The background and the creative process and that is obviously it goes with intention, because if you are into producing or creating something, it's because in the beginning you have the need of telling something, right? To express something.
So out of this
So-
need to communicate something that's going on, which maybe you don't know actually what it is, but there's a feeling at least, or
Yeah,
there
it's-
is an emotion associated with it.
Yeah,
And
it's like
to communicate that, you feel like there has to be more. There has to be more to what I'm doing to fulfill that or to meet that need.
yeah. See, like the intention, right? So
Yeah.
you are doing that because you want to say something. So every single thing, like every decision that you take on what you are creating, you are applying an intention to it.
Yeah,
On the frame, it can be just because it's beautiful. I don't judge that.
yeah,
I can make a whole entire clip of nice pictures,
Yeah.
and just because it's cool, or just because I've seen this and,
Yeah.
and it's beautiful. Yeah,
It's
definitely.
It takes I think that takes a real criticality, because I think that essentially that's what design is about. Design is about, and I'm a facilitator, and I do a range of design work with a range of organizations. That for me, there was a like quite a clear discovery that people have a need, and you are creating something that meets that need. That's essentially what design is. There is not necessarily an aesthetic in design, but there has to be meeting a need.
Yeah.
And I think that didn't become very clear to me until, the last group of people that I worked with. And there were some people who were just really intentional and really challenged and were critical about why things happened and how we did things, and the reason for our existence as an organization or as a group. And I don't ever remember. And those questions always came up. They came up every day. Well, why are we doing that? And well, how do we want to work together to accomplish that? And well, wait, why are you doing that? Does that align with what we're trying to accomplish? And that as a concept was never so clear to me until I got into the workplace and started to have to answer those questions. And how do young, like, where did you get that? Where did you get that, Joao? I certainly didn't get that in school, and I certainly didn't get it from my parents. And
I think it's
it feels like critical.
I think for me, it's a lot to do with being able to verbalize it, because it's a strange and difficult concept to understand, and if you don't have a person who can verbalize it to you in a way that you really understand what it is, then you won't get it, because you need to go through it. So I think it's most people will just be beating their head against the wall until they get it, because you just forcing like a what do you say, like a square peg into a round hole, right? But I think there's definitely a space there for creating a better way to communicate and creating a better way to verbalize it.
How would you say that
I think,
how would you say that to a 5-year-old?
Like this are actually a good way to do it, because we're reflecting and we're sort of like like trying to get a little bit of that. But and it's really interesting, because I've always felt that your work was and that's like something I've always looked up to your work, and like you've always been like a little bit like, okay, let me check what this guy's doing, you know. But
Nice.
I always felt that there was like this intention there, and I don't know whether it was on your, yeah, I mean, it must have been conscious. Like for me, it just always felt conscious, you know. And I with my own work, I sometimes I have a bit of a hard time like getting into that space, getting into that mentality, getting into that round hole, you know. So like yeah, that's just I think that's got to do with it.
Yeah, it's like I believe like design, like totally, it's functionality, right? It's going after people needs and improve and making it better. And when it, like, I don't know if we can call art in some pieces of some design pieces, but like in terms of if we think on filmmaking as art, like cinema, and like we are spreading a message, right? We are spreading a point of view. We are like we are communicating, like there it's a need, it's a call. Do we need art, right? Do we need to see some kind of like certain pieces of art? Like I think it's depends on the author, depends on the artist, and in if we actually need that those points of view or those approaches. But like in comparing to design, is like it splits a bit in a way that
Sure.
art it gets in that universe, right? And but if we go onto commercials, or if we go to institutional filmmaking, if we go to promos, music videos,
It's
like
all the same concept, yeah.
yeah, but like for example,
the level of it- the
commercials,
level of-
it's different. The mindset is a bit different.
Yeah.
Like last year, I wasn't producing commercials, just 2017, and commercials for me is like I rather have. I'm looking when I get to a brief of a brand to make a TV commercial or something, or even if it's a web or just a promo, like what I want to somehow, what I look for, it's the honest approach and the purest way to communicate the essence of that brand
Yeah.
from that brief. Like it can be, the approach can be really straight to the point on the brief and be something really sharp, really clear and straight to the point in terms of storytelling, or you can just add some details on it.
Yeah.
Like in cinematography, you can be something really classic, or can be something more emotional with a tone that goes more to the feelings of the brand, or more to the message, or more to the story.
Do you have an example of that where because that sounds like intentionality more so, like
Yeah.
I've got a brand that I'm trying to communicate and we're trying to market, and we're trying to connect emotionally to whoever's going to buy this thing potentially or consume this thing.
Yeah.
And there has to be real intentionality around the lighting and the colors and the person there and how they're engaging with the product or whatever.
Yeah.
Do you have an example of that?
Yeah, like some procedure, but the procedures that usually come up is like the briefing comes from the agency that builds up the campaign, like the creatives and the copywriters like establish this idea, and the brief can come like more strict or more open, right?
Sure.
And even if it comes strict, you can always propose on a treatment, like a different approach that goes a bit off, and sometimes it's good, right? Because naturally the copywriters or the strategists might not thought about that possibility.
Sure.
You know, like
Sure.
so like.
So you should challenge the brief a bit.
Yeah. So I believe that some brand that input comes pretty much from the agencies and from the creatives, like, and there are brands that have more they have a wider range of possibilities to explore and to reinvent themselves, you know, because there are brands that are classic, like I would say something related with medicals, for example, with medicine. They are pretty strict somehow, like
Sure.
usually very light, very clean.
Sure.
Like cameras, probably it's on a tripod or on some stabilizer.
So quite steady, no movement.
Yeah, so yeah, like
a lot of light blues, light greens,
exactly,
white, clear.
all this background and there are there are established approaches somehow. But then it comes also with trends. Like there are brands that now they want everything in studio, now they want everything handheld, defocus, like cool things, skate things, surf things, you know, like, and it goes pretty much by the trends. And then I believe that some directors fit more in some trends, or they reinvent themselves, or they just they look for specific directors for each approach. And
What's your mindset when briefs come to you then, or when pieces of work come to you? How do you feel about your style and what you want to deliver as an artist, but also balancing that with, okay, this is a paying client, and
like,
what's your approach to that?
I can say that I split much my artist point of view and my director approach with commercials, because if a commercial comes up, I pretty much get into trying to understand exactly the needs of that brand, like thinking as if I was the brand and what I would suggest to be the better option from that brief, obviously. When I'm an artist, it's like being a director or doing just experimental. I'll really experiment. Right?
Sure.
I'll
It's
just
more
go on
exploratory.
and it just let it flow. So like what ends up to happen with when I'm directing commercials and advertisements, it's getting like the best or the right pieces I have on my shelf, you know, like from experience, from things I want to try, and try to adapt it to the brand instead of adapting the brand to my language.
Yeah,
you
right.
know?
And in that
So-
case, you almost become a designer, where it's like, okay,
Yeah.
what am I trying to communicate or represent that
Definitely.
connects
Yeah.
emotionally
Obviously,
to?
you'll end up to have your thing there.
You'll have your
and
aesthetic
some some details, sometimes more than others,
Yeah.
but I can say I adjust my approach to the brand and to the brief, and then I see where I can fit with my aesthetic.
Well, I love the video that you did for a very well known soda company.
Diet Coke with
Yeah,
Sprite.
I wasn't gonna. I didn't want to say it, but
Yeah, sorry.
no. Yeah,
Because I had more soda drink, so that's why I was saying. I have done.
Yeah, I've seen the other ones.
Yeah.
But the one with it's a skateboarding one, and
Yeah.
obviously you've got your skating at your heart.
Yeah.
But I loved it because you're watching this guy who's kind of in nature, and he's swimming, and he's going downhill on a highway on a skateboard, and he's kind of going off track and on track, but you don't really know what the hell it's about until at the end you see the logo.
Yeah.
And I thought that's gorgeous, because it is ultimately about this emotional experience that this guy is having on his skateboard, and whatever freedom he's experiencing, or whatever's associated with that, jumping in the water and then jumping on the skateboard and kind of being limitless. And
it can lead to everywhere, and then you just have the headline or the voiceover that leads you to where I want to, right? But thing there, obviously the skateboarding, actually that guy is a friend of mine. It's not an actor, right?
Okay,
so
yeah.
it's, which is, for me, it's in some productions I rather work a bit like this, with the background of skateboarding, the background of dance, the video dance that I've been to. I rather like go on exactly because of that. Because if you want to achieve emotion, if you want to outcome like a feeling, it's good that you are really comfortable on what you're doing, because otherwise you cannot achieve that, right? Because there are a million ways of expressing a guy skating, a guy jumping into the water, making yoga, and that is pretty much that. Because like in terms of briefing, it can lead to a lot of brands, I would say.
Sure.
but the approach there, it's pretty much that. It's like handheld. It's my background on skateboarding
Right.
that makes
The
me
style of
comfortable.
skating and
Yeah,
shooting
yeah,
at the
yeah.
same time.
Yeah, because like the roots of skateboarding is wide lens, and it's like fisheye,
Yeah, yeah.
shot from
From
below,
the ground, yeah.
from the ground, and filming on a skateboard, chasing another skateboard. And at a certain point, I got interested more in the performative approach of the body on the skateboarding. So it somehow it interferes with my cinematography and my approach and my vision on films, because there was this language, this specific language that I was living with. Like I skate since I was like 13 maybe. So like it just came not naturally,
Sure.
like when I went to fine arts school, it just made sense skating and art at the same time, and making videos and projects
Yeah.
for university. And I was always, because skateboarding was there, like my actors were there, my resources, my suppliers were there, so it just came naturally.
Yeah.
It matched, and was easy to produce and to create stuff, create videos and create projects,
Yeah.
photography sessions, whatever, performances.
It sounds like also you I think you discussed this earlier, that you sound like you have an openness as well. You're open to that, to the two, this overlap of film and art, and this activity that you really enjoyed anyways, and also you were open to the people who are around you who could help you make that happen. Or
Yeah.
like you also said earlier, which I think is like inherently part of this creative process, which is you were just open to what material you had at your hands. Like, oh, I had this footage from Bangkok, and actually I could use that, and it's not just something that I just did it for fun, but I have that at my disposal. I'm not afraid to try it, at least, or use it.
Yeah, because like capturing it is like there's a commitment, like, and there's this need of creating, of doing stuff. Like going to skate with these friends of mine at the time was like creating the skate itself. The skate lifestyle requires nowadays more than ever, but back in the days, like 10 years ago, requires a lot of image, like creating languages, creating aesthetics, creating material. So like was easy, and it was natural to produce material without knowing for what we were doing, like just creating by creating. Because also skateboarding itself, it's way a lot about creating. It's like what we do as in street skating, not like the mainstream or the competition side of it that nowadays brands, but the root, it's pretty much like skaters approaching the city, the space, and expressing themselves as they are, because each skater has a different way to approach different specific sides of the city.
Sure.
So
Right.
the skate itself is pretty creative, like the mindset and the process of skateboarding, street skateboarding, in the root, without the trend and the mainstream, it's pretty creative, because you just, each one of you have your way of sitting, of looking to the city. I remember to be kid and going on the car and imagining like on the side of the window, like doing like as if I was skating, like I was jumping and doing this trick, and that wall is nice. That was nice. Like
you were visualizing yourself in the
just
the
like
city, and
looking, and your mind is always. My mind was always that with that context. I was looking to the stairs, and that handrail is skatable. And like, oh,
You
that
still
gap
do
is
that,
nice.
by the way. we were walking around London, you and your brother,
It
and you're
was
like,
worse.
you could totally skate here. Like, it was like, for me, it was just like, it was like a
wall.
like a diagonal wall, and
Yeah.
they're like, oh man, like there's fucking skating places everywhere over here,
So
which is funny because sometimes you forget that you used to do that. Like
Yeah.
there are thought processes that you used to have as a kid or as a young person that when you kind of sideline some of those things.
Yeah.
So, but I believe that all my skateboarding life pretty much teach me a way to make films, not just because of the image creating
Yeah.
or the creative process of it, but also like in my personal growth.
Sounds
and
like
personal
experiments, yeah.
development, because like all the mindset that you have to
And
have.
you have to be courageous as well to do it. Like you have to
Yeah,
have
I was
courage.
about to say that because like even we can see skateboarding as a sport, as a lifestyle, as something cool, as a way to sell a brand.
Yeah.
But I argue that and I defend that skateboarding is there are processes in skateboarding that some people should try it, like in a way that you are like by your own, no
Yeah.
coaches, no teachers, you just learn from who's there and from your friends.
Yeah.
If you travel for the other side of the world, if you see somebody with a skateboarding, you have a friend there for sure. It happened to me in Bay 66 like 2 days ago. Like I just arrived to the skate park by myself with
Yeah.
a skateboard, and the guys I arrived, and two guys, hey, how are you doing? Good. Nice. And we just start
Yeah.
skating. So
There's a real discipline with skating too, and you've got
the discipline.
It takes
Yeah.
resilience. You got to do things over and over and over again, like you
Yeah.
said, by yourself. Even just to do
Yeah.
something simple like an ollie.
And it's
requires-
and it's the
And
thing
you can
of
hurt yourself
not
as well.
not afraid of being like of committing mistakes, because or trying. It's all
Yeah.
about trying, because you try and you try and you try and you are always failing, and you are always falling, and you are getting hurt.
Yeah.
So it's this mindset of overlapping yourself.
Did you ever get to
Like-
that point with film where you, in a similar way, you were making? I mean, you mentioned earlier making mistakes and falling, getting up. Did you feel like you went through a similar process in
I think
filmmaking?
that process in skateboarding made me to allow myself of not being afraid of experiment,
Yeah.
basically. So it's not about trying and failing, but it's this thing of like trying, like experimenting, you know,
Yeah.
like just allow myself to commit the mistakes, like to shoot this and see it on editing, and it's like, this is a crap, you know, and it's, why is it a crap?
Yeah.
You know, so now I want to understand why, because when I grab this approach, when I do it in a different way or in another process, I want to make it better.
Yeah. I want to
You
know.
I
how
don't want
can
to fall
improve.
again.
Yeah.
You know, so it doesn't hurt, but it's painful the same way.
Yeah.
You know, so and I can say that skateboard, like always, obviously the aesthetics and all the approaches and the image creation involved in skateboarding, the trends and
Sure.
the looks, the
Style.
lifestyles, the environments, like influences, but like the same way the mindset, and above all, I think the mindset. I was like 15 years skating. I
Yeah.
grew a lot with that.
I love that because I grew up in the States, and things like baseball, sports like baseball and American football and basketball are so inherently part of young boys' experience in the States. Not all boys, but definitely I played baseball from the time I was 5 and I till I was 18, and at one point I wanted to play American football,
Mhm.
and I played on the streets and I played at school, and but at some point you put the pads on and you put the helmet on, and I said when I was 11, Mom, I want to play. I'm really ready to play. And my mom was great. She said, okay, sure, you can do what you want. So she signed me up, and the first day of practice, I was 11 years old. I was slightly overweight. It was the hardest thing I'd ever done in my life. It was a California August or July day. It was hot. We had to do push-ups and sprints, and these kids were in good shape. Like these kids had been doing this since they were 7, and I was just like, I was lost. I was totally out of my depth, and I remember after 30 minutes, I had decided I don't want to be here anymore. I want to quit, and I went to the sideline, and I got some water. I think I was crying, and I told my mom. I said, Mom, I don't want to do this. I want to go home. I don't want to be here. I quit. And she just looked at me and she said, Nathan, I've just paid $200 for you to be here. You're not quitting. And it was the best thing my mom ever did for me. It was and I've told her this. I said, "It's Mom. This is a moment of brilliance. I don't know what your intention was, but it was exactly what you needed to tell me." And I didn't have a choice. I said, "Okay, well, fuck." So I went back, finished the practice, and eventually finished the 12 weeks, whatever that was, where I showed up every day. I worked my ass off. I knew I wasn't going to quit. Quitting wasn't an option. And these kids had been playing since they were 7, so they knew the coaches, they knew the system, and I had to work my way.
A team already.
Yeah, I had to work my way from the bottom, and by the end of the year, I'd done quite well. I'd started. I was in the starting lineup. I was getting the ball. I was. It was an extraordinary kind of like 12 to 15 weeks from where I'd come to, oh shit, like you not only can you do this, but you're good, and you can play and work in a team, and you can excel, and that was the most important learning experience, I think, of my childhood. And it's absolutely relevant for everything that I have done since then, and where I'm at now, and the things that I've created, whether artistically or in business, and I think it's not something that maybe we value so much, particularly for young boys, that sports are a great way to just like face the fire, deal with some conflict.
Like
and
team build,
as a
like
person.
getting in build. Yeah, like my parents in that point is like, I heard seriously a lot of times since I was young, like skating, like I broke all parts I can imagine in my body. It was like knees, I had massive surgery in my knee. It's like arms, heads, everything.
Yeah.
My parents were always like, I don't know how, I don't know if if I were in their position, if I would realize how important was for me, or would be now, all the process of skateboarding.
Yeah.
Because it was actually dangerous. Like I was going to championships, they were coming with me. I was like calling them, or somebody calling them from the hospital saying like, who is here? And he just broke his head and he has a cranial trauma, or he just broke his leg and he has to go on surgery, or he broke like whatever, and they were all the time. My mom sometimes says like, I was like, when I knew that you were going to skate, I was all the time waiting to have a call saying to go and pick you up somewhere.
Yeah.
Because you just fell, or you just went to the hospital, or you were in somebody's home and just because you got hurt somewhere, so I had to pick you up. It's like, and it was crazy, but actually it was all this process was just strengthening me as a person.
Sure.
That respect the others, and act also in terms of society. In those days, it was like I was skating somewhere and everybody was shouting, saying I was on drugs, I was drunk, I was this, I was
right.
all the time back in the small city. My parents were always supporting and teaching me how to deal with it in a way of respecting the others, but keeping my own mindset, because if I wanted to do that, I'll just commit myself to do that.
Yeah.
So I would just go. And nowadays, like, it's the most important thing, probably, I would say, like, for me as a person, and for me as a professional, for me as an artist, it shaped me a lot. Like all the environment, and obviously nowadays it's useful. All this trend, the skate thing, like
you fit right in now.
Like,
you had to deal with all the.
It's there, But for me, it's like it's like, oh, this guy skating there. Nice fish, cool.
Sure.
I understand.
Okay.
Yeah,
Guys,
but
I think.
What's?
Oh, sorry.
Where are we at?
No, we have done like about an hour and 35, almost
Okay.
going an hour and 40.
I want to hear let's end on this. I want to hear who's thoughts on movies now, and like what are you watching and who are you watching, and what are you really drawn to right now from.
You're gonna love this answer.
like
you're not watching shit, are you?
not much, not much. I don't know if it was what you were expecting, but I can tell you, like, there are some authors I really stick into that I must see. It's like Paul Thomas Anderson, Tarantino, like Gaspar Noé, Jarmusch, Godard are things that I really want to consume.
What is it about them that is consumable for you?
What, sorry?
What is it about those directors that's consumable? What do you find
I don't
you're
know.
drawn to?
Some resonates with me in different ways. Like Aronofsky as a mindset. Like all the time I see Aronofsky's films, I finish the film and I think I could make this one. It should be me. You know, like
why didn't I make that?
Because I've been in this process, like mental process, mental development, and these ideas, these things, this ambience, this universe. I have this feeling. Like I don't know, Gaspar Noé. Well, Gaspar Noé, it's more about like his cinematography, is the themes he's working on. His universe are really nice. Like Jarmusch, I learned a lot about time, the same way as Bellatar. Like I like the way the pace they work, and like it's back in the days. It's a nice background, old movies, old, not that old, but
He's still alive.
yeah, it's the ones that I resonate. More or easier I go on watching something that I've seen already, that I just like. So obviously some art or some films that come up that premiere, it's like I want to go and see them, but I'm not into consuming a lot of cinema. Just the ones that I feel like maybe I should see more, maybe not. I don't know. I'm not sure. But I see a lot like dance videos. I really like a couple of choreographers. I'm pretty much into it, like looking for content and some art, some shows, some performance. I always look because like usually they don't come much to Portugal, so it's really hard to see their live shows.
So you find that sometimes you're finding inspiration or things that you want that are visually appealing are more maybe live or movement
like
and
theater. I go often like to see theater performances and but I think it goes with the feeling. I think I don't plan much, I don't seek, but I have this references that I look for. And when I have time, I search. If I need references for approaches or to communicate treatments and mood boards and things like that, I would go there to seek for some things, and make some research.
Sure.
But like I don't consume. I can say I consume a lot at all, because I believe that it's good to know. It's good to see. It's important to be aware of what is being done. But at the same way, I don't think it's I don't feel at all, at least until now, that I need more.
Sure.
You know, because
you don't feel it's critical that you
like,
need to consume to be able to create something
or to develop something. It just depends on what is driving your your creation in your creative process. Like I'd rather have like skateboarding on the back of the mind, dance, and the other one for more in the cinematography and the choreographic thing,
the sections of the mind,
then and then like more like dialogue, scenes, contexts, like in cinema, in books, to have it more here to write and to create.
I think there are some authors who have probably written more books than they've read, so I think like it's probably not it's probably not the norm, but actually not like it's not gonna not stop you.
Because like as I think I says, like you can get inspiration from wherever. I can get inspiration from this experience.
Well, I hope so.
At all, like totally, definitely. It's like,
let's pick that up like in a month, and we'll see.
See what's going on.
Cool, man.